Of course, no. And as a matter of fact, it will amaze you that I even got a call just 2-3 nights ago. Somebody called me and was like, what is happening? That they can't sleep. Clubs all over the place and all that. But ordinarily, even if you are running a club, you are supposed to have soundproof materials that will insulate the sound that is coming from your club so that you don't disturb other people. Or even though the law allows that you can apply change of use and all that to bring in some other activities, but then that control has to be there, and not when you have been given an approval because you do change of use, you now create nuisance in the environment. So these are a number of things that requires regulation from the ministry.
For the local government, you highlighted that we have River State is one of the states where all the local governments have a plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know.
There is. I've seen it.
You've just mentioned it. So, but when we look at the local government, we'll begin to ask, because the level of development in local governments doesn't seem as one that has, some sort of plan on ground that should be followed. So what exactly? Tell us more about this. Are these plans supposed to be implemented by the council chairman? Or what exactly? How does that work?
Thank you very much. Now, in the first place, the setting in the local government with respect to physical planning is wrong, because by the Nigerian Urban and Rural Planning Law, which was crafted and domesticated in Rivers State, known as the Rivers State Physical Planning and Urban Development Law number 6 of 2003, that law made provision for the establishment of local planning authorities in each of the local government areas. But if you go to the local government council today, they don't even have an office. There is no such thing in place there. And sometimes you begin to wonder, these are laws that are made by the government, signed by the state government, and these laws are not implemented. Now you begin to ask, is it deliberate? Are those in government just deliberately, breaking the laws, or decide to disobey the laws which they have put in place? Because if you have the local planning authority in place on ground there, I tell you, most of these things you are seeing, you won't be seeing them today. Because today what is happening, which is also traced back to urbanization, the rate of urbanization in Rivers State, in Port Harcourt particularly, is high. And that is why you see this spate of development in Rivers State is very rapid. You go to some places you think are rural. When you go there today, you imagine the kind of buildings that are there. Now, if you want to ask, all these buildings
did not follow the plan of those local governments.
None of them have a building plan approval. Even the local government council doesn't know about them.
Which brings us to the process of even acquiring the land and what kind of building should be in what area, and we'll talk about all of that when we return. And most importantly, I would also want to get your professional opinion on the issue that happened at the UST. And this morning, conversations were held around the activities around an institution. Are there certain criteria that should be looked at when you want to locate an educational institution? As a town planner, do you have certain things that you look at? This area for where you have a school should be like this, should not have this sort of things or that sort of things. When we come back after this commercial, and you might also want to tell us what reasons could anybody have to say they will not follow a town plan or master plan for a city. On Facebook, you can join us, Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. We'll be back after this short commercial.
Stay with us. Nigeria Info.
question we're asking you on Facebook: what would be or what could be a reason why with something in Yenagoa, very important, and how the structures are coming up and how everybody builds anything and everything. Quick one is the flash floods that we had when it rained, and does the failure of town planning contribute to that?
Well, if you say failure,
because for instance, I know the Inkbolu axis was one that people said somebody built something where they're not supposed to build it, and when it rained, this is what it caused. Floods come and people build on drainage ways. People buy and refill and reclaim places that are supposed to be for, and all of these things are happening. But these things are going on, and but before you got these things, somebody gave approval. Is it that the persons in the ministry did not know or don't look at the plan before they give this approval, or they don't? There's just a lot of things that many would ask.
Well, when it comes to that, when we are talking of the problem, I think everybody has a role to play. Will I be saying everyone is culpable? Because in the first place, before you build, you follow the approval process. And one of the conditions that they must apply from the ministry, somebody goes to that site. In fact, it's a double-checked procedure, because first and foremost, the town planner will prepare what we call site analysis report and plan. And that will serve as the basis for those in the ministry to judge what you are about to develop at that particular place. And the ministry will also go back to that site to inspect the place. So for me, I want to believe that when a professional town planner visits a site and has taken note of the basic and necessary attributes that will make it possible to be approved or not approved, I believe the town planner should do the needful, except something else happen along the line.
How do we then explain situations where we have, off the mic, we're talking about filling stations in residential areas, gas plants in residential areas, the many other, some people will consider not too safe kind. These sort of things are not supposed to be located where we even have, I'll give an example, radio stations, even with the electromagnetic waves that some of the mast and the rest that they emit. Some people would say, oh, I remember then there used to be talk, so you can't have these sort of things operate in areas, or telecommunication companies and where they site their masts can't be in areas where people live because of the infrared rays. There's even another example, the waste disposal. We have a dump site. If you're going towards the airport, you see that dump site there. And recently, people who lived around that area even had to complain about the stench. I passed that place yesterday. I passed that the day before, and the stench was still, the smell was nothing. It wasn't good. In planning, are these things not, are they earmarked and say, oh, this is where we can have this? This area for this local government, because you see local governments have plans to, should have, this is where this should be located, or what should, because when we spoke for the waste situation, when we spoke to Riwama, they were saying, well, that when they had that, people were not living there like that. But my question was, if there was a plan that says this place is where people are supposed to live, should that thing even be there, whether or not the land is empty? Or I don't know if you get the point.
I'm getting you. If there is a plan, of course, they won't go there. They will not go there. But because there was no plan, and for them, they are looking for where they will use as their landfill site, and they saw that place and felt that, oh, this place can be useful for us. And again, if that site is well managed, you won't even hear the stench. During my NYC in Gombe State, at least I worked with a firm, that's where I served, that is into environmental stuff. And one of their core activity is the management of the landfill site. And I tell you, you can come to that landfill site and eat. What do? Each time the waste are pushed in, the dozer goes in, level it, the compactor goes in, compact it, the next thing, laterite is leveled over it. So you don't know what is even happening there. You just come there and it looks like a borrow pit. But you have tons of waste that have been buried there. So this one, they are not managing it that way. They keep heaping the waste, pushing it, and definitely the stench goes beyond some kilometers of radius. Not just the people that are in that immediate vicinity. It goes beyond them.
So then, how would we describe this? Whose failure is it that we do not have, or maybe we have, but it's not followed, or we don't even have adequate planning for where some of these things should be and how they should be and what purposes they should serve in certain areas?
Government should allow the town planners to do their work.
They are not being allowed to do their work.
Yes, that is it. Because
but we have some of them working in the ministry.
When you are working in the ministry and you are not allowed to do what you were trained to do, there's nothing you can do. Tell me, that ministry today, they are reduced to just plan approval. These are just downstream aspects of fiscal planning. Plan approval, development control. What about the plans?
But the projects that government carry out, what role does town planners have in government projects before the projects are executed?
Yes,
because we have plenty of abandoned projects, not just on the side of government, even for individuals. So, we heard the FCT minister say something about people buy the land.
Yeah.
And you know that in this area you are buying land, we have said this is the kind of structure. And this is a time, they'll even give you a time, like this structure should be done. And then people start and leave and abandon. And that, if you go around Port Harcourt, you even go into the GRA area, you see some structures like that that are just abandoned. People are not looking at them. The ones that government started, the ones that individuals started, all there, and it's nothing. And then it got me thinking and asking questions like, if we have town planning, like I'm sure there should be some sort of control in how these things work. What's the role? What role do town planners play in all of this?
Well, like I said, planning is a governmental activity. And in the Western world, for instance, let me just draw from there. Our people will travel every day, we see these things. You don't initiate a project without the input of the people you are planning for. But what we see in Nigeria, in Africa, you can just wake up from your house one day and bulldozers are everywhere. You don't even know why they are there, what they want to do, and all that. So, the people are not carried along.
You think the people are also taking advantage of the failure of government in the sense that
politicians
don't obey this, don't follow this planning?
The other time, some of our members in the ministry were beaten up when they went out for the official duties.
Why? Why were they beaten up?
And I learned it was someone in the government that did that.
Why? Why
that is the level of impunity we are talking about. So if people around there saw what happened, of course, and tomorrow they see these people coming to their own side, they will say, nothing will happen. They will do what they want to do. So if there are fines, if there are stringent conditions that are tied to your failure to comply to the plans, to master plan or whatever regulation, I tell you, people will do the needful. Take, for instance, when Greater Port Harcourt started, people were running down there. People want to be sure, am I in Greater Port Harcourt? Once it is there, they go there themselves because they know that the Greater Port Harcourt people, when they started, they don't give a damn. Once you immediately contravene, the building is going down. Once you put your building at the wrong place, it is going down. Contravention, then I think they charge as much as $1 million or $2 million. And people were paying. So for you not to fall into that, people were running to their office. Their office was a beehive of activities because developers are careful. They don't want to fall into that trap that, okay, you are paying for contravention or your building has been marked for demolition. And then when they mark your building for demolition, of course, they must.
But these days we see buildings that are marked. I've seen some buildings